The girl with the shattered past the wind on Outpost 17 was sharp and cold. Dust blew through the streets of the small colony, settling on metal walls and cracked windows. People rushed by in thick coats and breathing masks. No one paid attention to the quiet figure sitting near the supply crates. She was not human. Her skin had a soft silver tone, and her eyes glowed faint blue under her hood. Her name was Lyra, and she didn't belong here. Lyra had been living in the shadows of the human colony for almost 6 months. She did the jobs no one wanted. Cleaning floors, fixing damaged machines, hauling garbage out to the waste piles. She didn't complain. She didn't speak unless she had to. Most days, no one even noticed her. But one man did. His name was Daniel, a quiet engineer who worked in the fusion plant. He noticed the way Lyra moved, always careful, always watching, like a bird ready to fly if someone raised their voice. She never caused problems, never made demands. Yet something about her felt ... broken. Daniel had seen pain before. He had served in the border wars, where he lost his brother. He knew the look in Lyra's eyes. It was the same haunted look he once saw in the mirror. One afternoon, Daniel saw her sitting alone, her hands trembling as she ate stale food from a paper tray. He walked over without a word and placed a warm energy bar beside her. Lyra looked up, surprised. "You dropped this," Daniel said casually, smiling a little. She stared at the bar, then at him. I didn't drop anything." "Then I guess someone else did," he said, and turned away. Lyra didn't understand him. Most people ignored her or treated her like trash. Why was this human helping her? That night, in the cold storage room where she slept, Lyra held the bar close. She didn't eat it. She just stared at it. Lyra had once been part of something big. She came from the Velari, a proud and powerful alien race. She was born into a noble house, the daughter of a respected diplomat. Her future was planned bond with a chosen partner, raise strong heirs, serve the council. But everything changed when she refused the trial of blood. It was a Velari tradition. To be accepted as a full adult, she had to take a life, any life. A prisoner, a criminal, or even a captured human. That was the rule. Lyra refused. She said no. They called her weak, a disgrace, a traitor to her people. Within a day, her family disowned her. Her title was removed. Her name was erased from the records. She was put on a shuttle and sent to the human side of the border. Exiled, forgotten. Now. She was a ghost in a world not hers. The humans didn't trust her. The Velari wanted nothing to do with her. She was stuck between stars that had no place for someone like her. Every night, Lyra sat on the roof of the old storage unit where she slept. She stared at the stars in silence. "Do you remember me?" She whispered to them. "Do I even exist anymore?" A shooting star crossed the sky. She closed her eyes and imagined what it would feel like to be held, to be safe, to be seen. And in that moment, her mind returned to Daniel, the human who gave her food without asking for anything, the one who smiled, the one who didn't look away when she spoke. Was it possible? Could a human accept her? There. Next morning, Lyra was mopping the floor near the reactor wing when Daniel passed by. He stopped and offered her a bottle of clean water. "You should drink more," he said. "These machines make the air dry." She took it, surprised again. "Thank you," she whispered. He nodded and kept walking. And just like that, something small broke inside her. Not in a painful way, more like the crack of sunlight through a dark wall. She looked down at the water bottle in her hand, and for the first time in months, she smiled. The man who didn't look away, Lyra, stood outside the fusion plant, holding the empty water bottle Daniel had given her. The bottle was simple, plastic, common, but to her, It felt like treasure. That morning, she had smiled. She didn't remember the last time she had done that. She stayed near the entrance, pretending to check a damaged supply crate, just so she could watch the humans go in and out, just so she might see Daniel again. And she did. He came out wiping his hands with a cloth, oil on his fingers, and a calm look on his face. His steps slowed when he saw her. "You waiting for someone?" he asked kindly. Lyra hesitated. "No, I'm just working." Daniel nodded, but he didn't leave. He leaned on a nearby wall and looked up at the gray sky. "Storm's coming," he said. "Better find shelter before it hits. These outer winds are nasty." She nodded again, but didn't move. Her voice was soft. "Why do you talk to me?" Daniel looked at her, curious. "Why not?" "Because most humans avoid me, and the ones who don't stare." Daniel shrugged. "You looked like you needed someone not to stare, just to see you." Lyra didn't know what to say. Her heart felt heavy, but warm at the same time. She looked at her feet and whispered, "Thank you." Daniel gave a small smile and walked away. That night, the storm hit. Sharp winds howled across the colony. Metal walls creaked. Lights flickered. Workers rushed to their shelters, leaving the corridors empty. Lyra sat in her storage room, arms wrapped around herself. Her blanket was too thin. Her hands were cold. Her mind returned to her people, the ones who once called her noble. She was no one now, but there was a knock on the door. She jumped. Another knock. Careful, gentle. She opened it slowly and saw Daniel standing there with a thermal blanket in his hands. "You shouldn't be sleeping in here during this storm," he said. "The walls could collapse." She looked down. "I have nowhere else." Daniel stepped aside. "Come with me." Lyra stared at him, frozen. "You don't have to," he added, "but I'll leave the door open." Then he walked back toward the energy unit's living quarters. Lyra looked at the cold room behind her. She heard the wind slam something down outside. Then, quietly, she picked up her things and followed. Daniel's quarters were small but warm. He had a heater, a power lamp, and even a hot drink waiting. "I didn't know what your kind liked," he said, handing her a cup. "But it's sweet." Lyra sipped carefully. It tasted of cinnamon and fruit. Her hands shook slightly as she sat down on the floor. Daniel sat across from her. He didn't stare. He didn't ask questions. He just waited. Finally, Lyra spoke. "I wasn't always like this. I once lived in the high rings of Velari. My room had stars painted on the ceiling. My name was written in gold." Daniel listened quietly. "But I refused to kill," she said softly. "It was our tradition. They asked me to end a life to prove I was loyal. I said no. They called me unworthy, weak, and they sent me away." She paused. "I don't have a name anymore." "Not to them." Daniel leaned forward. "Do you want a new one?" She looked up. "What?" He smiled gently. "Sometimes the names we choose mean more than the ones we're given." Lyra didn't smile, but her eyes softened. She held the cup tighter and whispered, "Then I want to choose one. That means someone sees me." The night grew quiet. The storm outside raged, but inside the small room, it was calm. Daniel laid a blanket on the floor beside the heater for her. "You'll be safe here tonight." Lyra looked at him and nodded. "Thank you, Daniel, truly." He paused before turning off the lamp. "Lyra, right?" She blinked. "How do you know?" "You whispered it in your sleep 2 nights ago when I walked by. I remembered." Lyra's eyes filled with quiet surprise. He didn't just look at her. He listened. Asterisk. Whispers of the past. Lyra woke up before sunrise. The room was warm. The storm had passed, and silence filled the space like a soft blanket. For the first time in months, she had slept without fear of the cold or waking to cruel whispers. She sat up slowly and looked around. Daniel's quarters were neat tools on shelves, datapads stacked, and a small photo of a younger Daniel with someone who looked like his brother. Lyra stared at that photo for a long time. So, he had lost someone too. Daniel walked in quietly, carrying 2 metal cups. "You're up early," he said with a soft smile. Lyra nodded. "I didn't want to overstay." "You didn't. Here." He offered her one of the cups. "Spiced tea. Helps with waking up." She took it with both hands. "Thank you again." Daniel sat across from her. "I used to have a brother, you know. We built engines together before he left for the front lines. He never came back." Lyra looked down. "I'm sorry." He nodded, eyes distant. "I guess pain has a way of finding quiet people." She looked at him closely. "You think I'm quiet? I think you're trying not to be seen." Lyra froze. He was right, because the last time someone saw her, they judged her. They called her traitor. Weak, not worthy to carry the Valari name. "Do you know what my people call someone?" "Like me?" Lyra whispered. "A voidling. It means one who chooses the emptiness over duty." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "That's a harsh name for someone who chose not to kill." Lyra gave a sad smile. "To them, mercy is weakness. I broke the code. I was supposed to become a warrior mate, but I refused to shed blood. So they stripped me of my name, my rights, and my place." Daniel looked thoughtful. "Sounds to me like they were scared." "Scared of what?" she asked. "Of someone strong enough to say no." That silence between them grew heavy and warm. Later that day, Lyra followed Daniel to the repair yard. He gave her simple tasks, sorting energy coils, checking power packs, and watched how carefully she worked. The other humans glanced her way, but didn't say anything. Daniel's presence was a shield. At midday, a supply drone arrived with food. Rations. Daniel handed her a small wrapped pack. "It's standard, but not terrible." She opened it slowly. Inside was dried meat, soft bread, and something golden, a sweet fruit bar. She stared at it. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "It's just, I haven't had fruit in a long time." Daniel gave her a look. "You're not just surviving anymore, Lyra. You're living." But the moment didn't last. As the sun began to set, a signal came through the comm station. A Valari patrol ship had been seen near the border close to Outpost -17. Lyra froze when she heard it. Daniel turned to her. "Do you think they're looking for you?" She looked away, her voice a whisper. "Yes, and if they find me, they'll drag me back. Or worse." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Then they won't find you." Lyra shook her head. "You don't understand. If they scan the colony logs, they'll see someone with my pattern signature. They'll know I'm here. Then we'll erase it." She looked at him in shock. "That's treason." Daniel replied firmly. "It's protection." That night, Lyra stood on the roof again. The stars blinked above her like distant memories. Daniel joined her, carrying a blanket. He offered it to her without a word. They sat side by side, quiet. "Do you miss them?" he asked. "No," she said after a long pause. "But I miss who I was before they changed me." Daniel nodded. "I think that version of you is still here, just waiting to come back." Lyra looked at him, really looked at him. In his eyes, she saw no judgment, no fear, no disgust, only belief. And for the first time since exile, she believed a little too. The offer of a life. The Valari ship didn't land, but it circled above the region 3 times. Each time, Lyra held her breath. Each time, Daniel stood by the comm station, watching with narrowed eyes. By the 3rd pass, the patrol ship sent a scan across the colony's outer zone. The human systems picked it up immediately. An alert flashed through the base. Unidentified scan pattern detected. Everyone tensed, but Lyra? Lyra shook from the inside out. She knew what came next. "They're confirming if I'm alive," she whispered to Daniel. He didn't respond right away. His hand hovered over the terminal. "If I shut this down now, they won't get the result. They'll know the system was blocked. They'll think it was a glitch." Lyra looked at him, eyes wide, heart pounding. "If they confirm I'm alive and not in custody, they'll send hunters. You don't understand what I ran from, Daniel. The High Council never forgets shame." Daniel stared at her. "Then we give them something they don't expect." That night, the lights across Outpost 17 flickered. No one noticed when the records terminal in the old power wing went. Dark for 13 seconds. Was enough to erase a line of code. Enough to make it look like Lyra never existed. But that wasn't the end of it. When Daniel returned to his quarters, Lyra stood in the middle of the room, holding a small bag. Her hands were shaking, but her eyes were steady. "I have to leave." Daniel stepped forward. "You don't. I do. If I stay, you'll be marked too. Your job, your name, your life. They'll take it all." He didn't blink. "Let them try." She stepped closer. Her voice trembled. "You don't understand. You helped me. You protected me. And you listened when no one else would. But I can't let you lose everything for me." Daniel said nothing. Instead, he walked to the shelf beside his bed, picked up a small data crystal, and handed it to her. "What's this?" she asked. He replied softly, "A citizen bond application." Lyra froze. "You? What?" "If you sign it and I sign it, you become one of us. A citizen under Earth law. They can't touch you." Her hands clutched the crystal like it was alive. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. Daniel didn't look away. "Because I'd rather stand beside you than watch you disappear again." The next day, Lyra didn't go to work. She sat in Daniel's quarters all morning, the bond crystal untouched on the table. At noon, she opened the door and stepped outside, walking through the colony streets like a ghost. Everyone saw her. No one stopped her. Until she reached the platform where Daniel stood, fixing an aerial tower. He looked down as she approached, wiping sweat from his brow. "I thought you left," he said. "I tried," she replied. "But I realized something." He waited. "I'm not just running from my past anymore. I'm running from my fear of being haunted, being chosen." And she did something no one expected. She dropped to one knee. She held out the crystal in both hands. Tears filled her glowing blue eyes. "Daniel, will you bond with me?" The entire work team nearby went silent. Even the wind seemed to stop. Lyra didn't move. Her knees pressed against the metal floor, her head bowed. Her voice shaking. "I have no name, no house, no legacy left. But I have my heart, and I give it to you freely. Not as a refugee, but as someone who finally believes she is more than her past." Daniel walked down the steps slowly. He stopped in front of her, took the crystal from her hands, and lifted her to her feet. "You already had my answer," he said softly. Lyra's lips trembled. "But I had to ask, with tears in my eyes, because this time I wanted the choice to be mine." And when he placed the bond seal around her wrist, it clicked into place like fate itself. Asterisk. The choice that changed everything. News of the bonding spread through the colony faster than a fuel spark in dry air. Some humans whispered, some aliens stared. But no one said it aloud. Not yet. A human had accepted an exiled Vellery girl. Not out of politics, not for trade, but for love. Inside the command center, officers argued over the decision. Daniel's name came up more than once in hushed conversations. His record was clean. His service? Honorable. but bonding with a Velari exile. It made things ... complicated ... especially now. Because the Velari patrol ship had returned, and this time, it was not just watching. A message was broadcast across all open channels. Surrender the traitor. Return what is ours. This is the final request. Everyone knew who they meant. Lyra sat in Daniel's room, hands clenched in her lap. The bond bracelet on her wrist felt heavier than ever. I should have left, she whispered. They won't stop. Not now. Daniel stood near the window, staring at the distant ship above. You're not going anywhere, he said. They'll target the colony. Then they'll find we're not as soft as they think. Later that night, Lyra stepped out alone. She walked through the silent corridors, past the landing docks, past the canteen, all the way to the colony's heart, the Unity Square. There, she stood before the crowd that had gathered. Workers, engineers, traders, officers, all had come to see if the rumors were true. She raised her voice. I was born Velari, but they called me broken. They threw me away like dust. Her voice cracked, but didn't stop. I begged no one. I asked nothing, until one human looked at me, not as a mistake, but as a person. The people watched in stunned silence. I asked him to bond with me, not because I was desperate, but because I finally knew who I was. She held her hand high, showing the silver bond ring. I am not just Velari anymore. I am bonded under Earth law. I am one of you now. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some looked away. Some nodded slowly. One older engineer, grizzled and quiet, stepped forward. You're the one who fixed the coolant lines last week? Lyra blinked. Yes. He gave a short nod. Then welcome to the colony. We were starting to like working air. The crowd chuckled. Just like that the ice broke, but the storm hadn't. Past the next morning, the Velari ship landed. 2 tall armored figures marched out. Their weapons shimmered with deep blue light. They demanded entry. Demanded the girl. Daniel stood in front of the gates, arms crossed, badge on his chest. Is Earth territory. She's bonded under Earth code. You have no rights here. She is Velari property, one of them hissed. She is a person, Daniel said. Lyra stepped forward, walking out from behind him. The Velari guards looked at her with disgust. You still wear that name, one of them spat. I wear the name I chose, Lyra replied, and I no longer kneel to shadows. One guard raised his weapon. Before he could aim. A dozen human soldiers stepped from behind crates, doorways, and rooftops, all armed. Already. Daniel didn't flinch. This is your only warning. Leave. The Velari hesitated, and for the first time in Lyra's life, she saw a fear in them. They turned and left. That evening, Daniel and Lyra sat by the main fire pit outside. The barracks. She leaned on his shoulder, watching the flames dance. They won't stop forever, she said softly. No, Daniel agreed. But neither will we, she smiled a little. That was the first time I've seen them back down. That was the first time, Daniel said. They saw Earth stand together for someone they once cast aside. Lyra closed her eyes. Wasn't just surviving anymore. She was part of something, not because someone gave her a place, but because she had chosen one. *A, new name among the stars, the sky above. Outpost 17 was calm now. The Velari ship was gone silent and shamed. The stars twinkled above like gentle watchers, and the colony below slowly returned to normal. Machines hummed. Lights flickered. Life moved forward. But for one girl, everything had changed. Lyra stood at the edge of the colony wall, wrapped in a soft brown cloak. Her bond bracelet shimmered under the moonlight. It was real now, recognized by Earth Command. Sealed in the colony's logs. She was no longer a number. No longer a ghost. She was Lyra Danvers. Behind her, Daniel approached with 2 steaming mugs of tea. He handed one to her. She smiled as she took it. "You always bring tea." "It works," he said with a small grin. They stood side by side, quiet and thoughtful. "You know," Lyra whispered, "I always thought I'd die alone, somewhere far from my home, without a name. Just gone." Daniel looked at her gently. "You still think that?" She shook her head. "No, not anymore." He raised his mug slightly. "Then here's to names. The old ones, the new ones, and the ones we give ourselves." She tapped her mug to his, smiling with tears in her eyes. Later that day, the colony held its weekly gathering in the central square, a place for announcements, music, and moments that mattered. Commander Reyes stepped onto the platform, holding a silver record plate, in honor of peace, unity, and courage beyond bloodlines. She said loudly, "We welcome a new name into our family." People turned as Lyra stepped forward, calm, proud, and no longer afraid. Commander Reyes continued, "Let this record show. Lyra Danvers is a citizen of Earth, bonded and recognized. She stood for mercy. She stood for choice. And now Earth stands with her." A soft cheer went up, not loud, not wild, but real. That night, in a quiet part of the colony, Lyra unpacked a small bag she had once carried when she was still hiding. Inside were faded Velari beads, a torn robe, and a tiny music charm from her childhood. She stared at them for a moment, then gently set them aside. She reached into a drawer and pulled out a new patch, hand-stitched by one of the human workers. It had Earth's star emblem and her initials, LD. She sewed it onto her jacket herself, in the days that followed. The stars brought new visitors, traders, scouts, and even an ambassador. Whispers of what had happened on Outpost 17 began spreading across the colonies and into distant sectors. They said a Velari exile found shelter with humans. They said a human accepted her, not as an enemy, not as a burden, but as equal. And slowly, stories changed. Enemies became allies. Fear became questions. And questions became hope. On a quiet evening, Daniel and Lyra sat beneath the dome at the colony's edge. He pointed at a far star, glowing red. "Do you know that one?" he asked. Lyra nodded. "That's Velari Prime, my old home. Do you ever miss it?" She took a long breath. "I miss who I thought I'd be there, but I love who I'm becoming here." Daniel smiled. "Then let's build something better. Together." She turned to him. "What should we call it?" Daniel shrugged. "Whatever name you choose." She looked at the stars, then down at her hands, and softly said, "Home."